Millions of people across the country took part in the No Kings protest targeting the Trump administration. Organizers estimate nearly 7 million participants marched in major cities. In places like New York, law enforcement officials say the rallies were relatively peaceful. And earlier in the week, when asked about the rallies, President Trump telling Fox News, "I'm not a king." Now, the government shutdown is stretching into another week, and Democrats and Republican lawmakers remain at a stalemate. The Senate will attempt another vote tomorrow. Meanwhile, the House is expected to be out of session this week. Federal food programs like WIC and SNAP are also being impacted. The USDA runs these programs and is sounding the alarm that funding is about to run dry. Advocates warn it could have direct consequences for families already facing food insecurity. Take a listen.
It's deeply concerning. WIC is a program that has really been protected from fallout during prior shutdowns because it serves such a vulnerable population. There's been a longstanding commitment in Congress to ensure that every eligible individual can be served. But as the shutdown drags on and the program runs low on funds, we risk the possibility of families having to be turned away or lose benefits entirely.
Joining me now are Republican Congressman from the state of Florida, Mike Haridopolos, and Democratic Congresswoman from Texas, Julie Johnson. Thank you for joining me. We've been talking to everyday Americans on the impact the shutdown is having on their lives. A furloughed FDA employee is a single mother of two, and she told us she borrowed from her retirement funds so she could budget for a month while she waits for unemployment benefits to kick in. Here's her message to lawmakers and the president.
Please remember who you're representing. Please remember that we're families. We've been here. We love our country. And we really want to be supported by our Congress and our representatives, as well as our president. And this is very hurtful.
Congressman Haridopolos, what's your reaction and your message to people in similar situations?
Well, first and foremost, I feel very bad for this young lady. It's a tragic situation because, as you know, the House of Representatives has acted. We voted to keep the government open. Unfortunately, Democrats voted to, of course, keep the government closed. One of the things I think that the viewers might know is that we negotiated this out before it ever happened. We went to the Democrats and we said, we're going to do what's called the clean CR, meaning no changes in the budget at all. And we would actually adjust to the date they requested. We wanted to do a clean CR, keep the government open till January. They said, no, let's do it till November 21. We agreed. Unfortunately, as you know, after we passed the bill in the House, it went over to the Senate where you need 60 votes. And at this point, there are not enough Democrat votes to get that passed. We want to open the government. We voted to open the government. I hope that Julie's party and others in the Senate will actually open up the government so we can have a debate, not just about the budget, but also about important things like health care.
Just to talk about health care, the Democrats are saying that if these Affordable Care Act subsidies are running out, close to 5 million Americans can lose access to their health care, including almost 2.5 million in your state, Congressman. So, Congresswoman Johnson, I want to ask you the same question. What's your reaction to that message and to your constituents?
Well, the Republicans are intent on cutting health care for 32 million Americans. You know, I have 100,000 people in my district, and Mike, you have 90,000 people in your district that rely on the Affordable Care Act. And your resolution essentially guts all that. I voted against this bill when it first came up. I voted against it every single time, standing true to my values that I want the American people to have health care. And that is exactly what the American people want. The polling is overwhelmingly clear that the American people want health care. The Republicans are owning this shutdown. They control the House, they control the Senate, they control the executive. They're the ones that put this terrible piece of crap bill on the table, and then they expect Democrats to just swallow it, and we're not doing it. And so, you know, when we have a bill that accommodates health care for the American people, then they'll get our support.
Now, Congressman Haridopolos, I do want to ask you a question. You're saying right now that you're attributing this shutdown to the Democrats, but right now, the Republicans, they are in control of the House, which means they have control of the legislative agenda. So what exactly are you looking for from the Democratic Party in order for you guys to actually bridge that gap?
Well, again, you might want to watch Schoolhouse Rock, because it's pretty simple. Right now, we passed the bill in the House. I'm not sure what no one understands here. We passed the bill. It goes over to the Senate, and the Senate needs 60 votes in order to actually get into law. And this is not the health care bill. This is the basic budget bill. Once we fund the government, meaning the people like you opened your show on, gets the funds because they're working for it, whether it be WIC or other programs. We voted to keep the government open. Every Republican in the Senate, except for one, voted to keep the government open. 3 aligned Democrats in the Senate voted to keep the government open. Then we can have a debate about the health care bill. But beyond that question, again, this is a clear issue. The healthcare issue is a January 1st issue, and it's also one where we can't just rubber stamp a bill that allows for losing one's doctor. Remember, Obamacare said it would reduce costs. It said you get to keep your doctor, and the insurance companies would be out of power. Well, this bill that's currently in place, the taxpayer dollars go directly to health insurance companies. And so what we want to do is make some reforms, just like we did with the Medicaid bill, where we help the most vulnerable, but we're not going to fund illegal aliens on for healthcare. But more importantly, there's 2 separate items here. We voted to keep the government open. Julie and her team voted no, and it's over in the Senate now. Once we open the government up, we have the logical debate about how we improve the healthcare system and allow prices to finally come down, as opposed to the broken Obamacare system, which everyone recognizes now. That's why you have to have these huge subsidies, because Obamacare has been such a tragic failure.
You're saying this is not the health care, but again, we're seeing the Trump administration right now actively furlough federal workers right now who are relying on their paychecks. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Congressman Haridopolos, 47,000 federal employees in Central Florida, including NASA, military staff, they're affected. Congressman Johnson,
Well,
over
again,
50,000 workers in Europe,
Again,
they're
this
being
is why we
affected. This is
voted
for
to keep
Congressman
the government
Johnson.
open, Ike.
Congresswoman Johnson, I want to ask you, you say Democrats, they're coming to the table with a responsible plan to fund the government while protecting health care, but Republicans continue to choose chaos over compromise. This is what you're saying. So how can both sides come to an agreement that will open up the government so federal workers, like the tens of thousands I was just mentioning, can finally get their paychecks?
Well, absolutely. This is a Republican shutdown, and the Trump administration has fired over 200,000, or attempted to fire 200,000 federal workers. You know, courts have consistently said that's illegal. This recent laying off of federal workers to the woman that you highlighted at the beginning of your show, the courts have said that's completely illegal. And, this is absolutely ridiculous. The other thing is, this talking point that we're trying to fund healthcare for illegal immigrants is absolutely false. Federal law is overwhelmingly clear that if you are illegal status in this country, you're not eligible to participate in any federal healthcare program. And there's nothing about the Democratic demands that are seeking to change that. We want healthcare for American citizens. And this is a false talking point intended to give red flags to the American people to distract them from the fact that they're going to lose their healthcare. The other thing is, this bill was passed in March. The Republicans have had April, May, June, July, August, September, and now into October to come up with a credible healthcare solution, and have completely failed to do that. And they are in charge. The other thing is, if you're going to reach a solution, you have to be in session. It has been, in the last 108 days, the Speaker has only called the House in session for 19 of them. The House has not been in session since September 19th. It's impossible to have a solution if you're not working and if you're on vacation. And so this is absolutely ridiculous. I've been in D.C. I'm going to be in D.C. again next week. Democrats have been in D.C. ready to work and ready to meet, but Republicans have been on vacation, have been staying away from D.C., not getting the job done. And that's part of the problem. You actually have to be there in order to reach a solution for the American people.
Now, Congresswoman Julie Johnson, I do want to say, and I do want to be fair, I said over almost 60,000 of federal employees furloughed in your district right now. I do understand the concerns of Democrats about health care, but why not a clean bill now and then address that continuing resolution, the CR later, just so we make sure they can get their paychecks?
Right. Well, the time doesn't allow for that. The premiums, the new healthcare plans go into effect January 1st. Health renewal notices are going out across the country right now. Most states will receive those November 1st. So the American people are going to have to make a decision on if they can afford their healthcare. And unfortunately, their premiums are going to go up, double, triple, and in some circumstances, quadruple. And whether or not they can sign up for that, and they have to sign up for that in November. And in December, they don't have the luxury to wait until January to have this thing resolved. And again, there's absolutely no indication that the Republicans are serious about solving this problem. The time is now. The urgency is now. There's no more time to delay and kick this can down the road.
Congressman Haridopolos, do you want to respond?
Well, again, I'll say a couple things. One is, let's all recognize that this plan that's such a disaster and they have to have so many subsidies was created by the Democrats. The subsidies more recently were created by the Democrats. And why do you have to have subsidies? Because the plan's a failure. You got to put more and more tax dollars towards it. What we want to do is common sense. Keep the government open so you don't have the tragedy as we opened our show today. And when we asked the Democrats, what do they want in response? Not only do they want just a rubber stamp on this broken system, they also said, and this is Chuck Schumer's request, they want $1.5 trillion in additional spending. We don't think that's another good idea. And second, this expansion, which they want to have, is an additional $450 billion. So you're talking about a $2 trillion ransom that the Democrats are asking for in this debate. All we're saying is let's open the government up so we can put the workers back in place so they can get their paychecks, take care of their families, because in the end of it, we've all paid taxes for this. We should get the services we're paying for. And this is the same thing that Democrats, again, I'll add one more thing, 13 times during the Biden years, they used a process called a clean CR. Why not do the same thing now? It's because they don't like Donald Trump. They wanted things to undercut him. I'm not sure why. I think the goal should be to have a reasonable debate, but not ask for a $1.5 trillion ransom note in order to open the government back up. And so let's have the debate. We're happy to do so, but we're not going to rubber stamp a program that everyone recognizes is broken in the sense that you never got to keep your own doctor and the fact that we're empowering insurance companies along the way. And so let's really have a healthcare reform, and we're happy to do so, whether it be the Democrats or we'll go it alone. We're happy to work with Democrats, but they have to open the government up. It's that simple.
All right, 24.2 million Americans enrolled in the ACA marketplace. Close to 5 million can lose access to that if those subsidies aren't addressed. Congressman Mike Haridopolos and Congresswoman Julie Johnson, thank you very much for your time today.